Hey everyone, Coach Lucas here. I hope you are doing well. Today I want to discuss and show you the MSM method. This is the MSM methodology. This is the philosophy behind what we do in helping players achieve their highest potential and helping them in their journey of becoming a professional player or a college player. And so for those of you that don't know, my focus is helping players in the areas of personal development and helping them with their mental strength and help prepare them for the demands of the college level and the professional level. And it all starts for me, the foundation to development is the mental side of the game, is what we're talking about here, personal development. And so I wanted to share with you the philosophy behind what we do and how we do things that contribute and lead to our players' results. So this is the progression model. This model here has evolved and developed over the last 10 years. And what's important to understand about this is that this model has revealed itself over the last 10 years. And the reason why I position that way and frame it that way is because I didn't just make this thing up out of the blue. This is what I have found to be the key progression in helping players achieve optimal success, both in sport and in their lives. And so after working with literally hundreds of players and speaking with players personally about what it is that they're going through, what they're struggling with, what's holding them back from achieving success, from improving their performances. And after doing that hundreds of times, I found the patterns, the trends, the things that are needed to really build this framework, this castle, this mansion, if you will, of what is a professional, a successful way of approaching the game and approaching life. So what I wanted to do today is really break this down for you, give you the highlights of how this progression model works, of the stages in which our players go through to find success. And I want to give you a little bit of depth. I'm not trying to lecture today or going in too deep of the weeds. So I want to spend the next 30 minutes or so just giving you the highlights and also a little bit of insight on what each phase of this methodology entails. So we'll see how I do. Let's go ahead and take a look. Phase 1, principles of success. So the three key principles of success under our methodology are number 1, the vision, number 2, self-awareness, and number 3, self-belief. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to break this down. Why are these the three key principles of success? And how does that relate to a player's performance, right? So first of all, number 1, let's talk about the vision. And so when we talk with a player about what it is that they want to accomplish, their long-term goals, most players don't have an answer. Most players say, I don't know. The other majority of players say, I want to play professionally or want to play in college, but don't have a distinctive, descriptive picture of what that actually looks like. And so what's important about going through the process of identifying that is the player actually becomes aware of what's important for them. What is it that they want to accomplish specifically? And that's a key part. That's the key part to this process, is really identifying with what's important for you as a player. What is your gut telling you? What is your gut or your intuition telling you is possible? Can you describe that? And so developing a vision of what it is that these players want to accomplish long term really then acts as a North Star, acts as a guide, acts as an anchor for direction in where we want to go as a player. And that's why this is so important. That's why it's the first key principle of success, because we need to know where we're going. Otherwise, we're just floating in the wind. You know, we're a sailboat without direction, just going with the wind. And a lot of players just go with the wind and don't have direction, don't have a purpose, don't have meaning behind what they're doing each day, each week, each month as they work towards that goal. So establishing that is step number one for the principles of success. Number two is self-awareness. And the analogy we use for the players is the GPS system. So as you know, you've used a GPS system before. You can have a destination point, great, that's the vision. But if you don't have a starting point, if you don't have a place to start from, there's no path, there's no direction, there's no instruction on how to get to your ultimate goal. So we need to understand where we're starting from. And the players need to understand that. And this is a really powerful tool. And this is actually a tool that is intertwined the entire process of the development for these players. And so the key to this is for the player to understand their strengths, understand their weaknesses, understand their flaws, understand what it is that they need to focus on each day, each week, each month, each year as they move towards their vision. So those are the first two key points. The third key point is self-belief. And what I found in working with players is that most players have very limited self-belief structures. They have these belief structures that are typically comprised from their past experiences, from their environment, from the family that they live in, where they're located, their community. And so a lot of times, as you know, we're limited by those belief structures. Now, psychologically, those belief structures are created for a purpose. And so for some period of time, whether it's 2 minutes, 2 months, 2 years, that belief structure serves a purpose. But when we're going through this process of helping players identify where it is that they want to go long term, all of a sudden their current belief structures are no longer serving them because they have a new goal. They have a new long-term purpose. And so they need to break down those belief structures and rebuild new belief structures that are going to allow them to accomplish their goals. And so that's where self-belief comes in. That's where we really round out the key principles of success. Now, look, when I'm sharing this with you, of course, I'm talking at a little bit higher level than what I would normally do for the players. And so taking this, making it relatable for the players, putting it in a context in which they understand is the key part of this whole foundation, if you will. So that's principles of success. Excuse me. Next is pro habits and lifestyles. And really, we use these terms because the players like these terms. It's something that they can connect with. And so when we're talking about pro habits and lifestyles, we're talking about these key components here. And this is the starting point. This is the starting point. The eating, the sleep, the exercise, the controlling emotions, the patience, the confidence. When a player can identify with these key components and understand how they're doing in each of these components, it gives us our starting point. It helps us understand what it is that they need to focus on, and it helps us understand where their habits are broken and where we need to introduce new habits. For most players, and I can go into the trends, I can go into the patterns, I can go into what I have found, the data that I have found, and what has revealed over the last 10 years of working with these players. But I will share with you this: sleep is number one. Most players that I come across, whether they're playing at a local level or at a national level, most players that I come across don't have an adequate amount of sleep. And this is massive for players who are playing at a relatively high level that need to recover properly to continue their development and be able to sustain performance over a long period of time. So sleep is number one. Eating is right there next to sleep. A lot of players have really poor diets, heavily relied on processed foods because they're convenient. We can go into that whole avenue of performance. But anyhow, so what we do here is we provide the players with the right tools, the right strategies, the right support system, the right framework, and a team of coaches that are going to help them in these specific areas. Okay, and what you'll notice is that when we're talking about principles of success, and when we're talking about pro habits and lifestyles, these are the first two phases of this process. These first two phases these are beasts. I mean, these are absolute beasts to contend with. It's not like this is an easy process to get players to get a handle on these two things. This takes time. This takes a lot of time for players. For some players, it may take 2 weeks. For other players, it may take 2 months. And so it's important that, before moving on to the third phase, which is Tools of Champions, that players really have an opportunity to master these two phases of the progression model of the personal development. Okay? So the last thing I'll say about pro habits and lifestyles is that when a player understands how habits work, and when you empower them to learn how to change their own habits, that's what they receive. They really feel empowered to have control on their lives and how they're living their lives and how they're performing. And if a player can have a handle on just those two phases, you're seeing performances improve. You're seeing performances improve with just those two phases alone. So I can't stress the importance of those two phases as a foundation to this entire progression model. And so the next phase is Tools of Champions. And I can talk for hours about this phase, but I'll just give you the highlights. A lot of the tools boil down to this formula, if you will, right here. Thoughts affect emotions, emotions affect behaviors, and behaviors in turn affect thoughts. So this becomes a cycle. This is a formula. As Coach Corey, who works with us, Coach Corey would say, this is the magic formula. And a lot of our tools boil down to this formula, and this is where players attack their problems head on. So if you'll notice, where does a player work on their confidence? Where does a player work on their inconsistencies? Where does a player work on dealing with tough coaches or tough teammates or tough parents or being a perfectionist? All of that takes place in Tools of Champions, but you can't take that head on without establishing the foundation that I've laid out with you so far, because otherwise it breaks. You can have a player all of a sudden, they're taking more risks, they're playing fearlessly, but if their principles of success aren't there, if the pro habits and lifestyles aren't there, you don't have a sound structure, and solving that specific issue, that specific problem, doesn't sustain. Okay, that's why, again, there's a progression to this, and so our tools, we have a variety of tools for players to focus on to help them both in their sports and in their lives. And I just shared with you a handful there: how to handle tough coaching, how to communicate with parents, how to communicate with coaches or teachers for that matter, how to handle tough teammates or tough opponents, how to handle the spotlight, how to play fearlessly in big time performances like playoff matches or championship matches or trials or tryouts where scouts are watching, right? So this is where we lay out an entire variety of tools and strategies and understandings for players to pick and choose from that are important and specific to them. So as you can imagine, this takes time too, because a player has to experience the tools, they have to experience the problems, they have to experience what it's like to solve those problems, and getting through and getting a handle on a good majority of those tools takes time. But that's important because, again, at every level for these players, every season poses a new challenge. Every season, every level, every age poses a new challenge, and taking time with this is perfectly fine. The ultimate goal is to prepare them for the college level and professional level. And so taking time here and understanding these tools and experiencing these tools is perfectly fine. Okay. So once they have a handle on these tools, once they have a grip on how to use these tools, how to implement these tools, and they can experience what it's like to work through those adversities and those challenges and those obstacles, then we move on to leadership mastery. And this is really interesting because phase 4 here, leadership mastery, there's 3 key levels of leadership that we teach the players. Number 1, leadership of self. Number 2, leadership of family. And number 3, leadership of community. And that's the teammates, the schoolmates, and then our MSM community, the players within our programs, right? So what's cool about this is that when a player understands that leadership of self is the foundation of leadership, all of a sudden there's a lot of things happening, because number 1, they're realizing that no matter their nature, they can be a leader. They don't have to be a leader like somebody else. They don't have to be like another player or another person to be a leader. They can be their own version of a leader. Because as long as you're focusing on, once you master yourself, that's where leadership starts to emerge from. And you could become a leader of a family and then leader of your community. And what's interesting, if you look at the model, if you look at the progression model, we've been helping, that's the whole purpose of the model, is to help them with self-mastery. And that's the first step of leadership. So when they realize this, they're realizing that all along they've been becoming a leader. And so it's important to understand that at the professional level, at the college level, coaches and scouts are looking for leaders. Everyone at the college level, at the professional level, especially the professional level, have leadership abilities. And so college coaches, college scouts, professional coaches, professional scouts, they're looking for players that have leadership qualities. And so if we want to help prepare players for this, this phase is absolutely crucial. And so there's 10 key characteristics of a leader. We help players identify what those are, how they pertain to them, how they score, if you will, on those characteristics, and give them the tools and strategies to master those characteristics. And the final part here is flow state. The final step in the progression here is flow state. And so if you've seen the previous videos, we talked about what is flow state. What does that actually mean? So here's a definition. In positive psychology, a flow state, also known informally as being in the zone, is the mental state in which a person performing some activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. In essence, flow is characterized by the complete absorption in what one does. And so it took me a long time to figure out the end goal for these players. Of course, we want them to play confidently and improve their performances. But how can we structure this so that we can get the players to understand when they're there, like when they've actually achieved this? And the flow state, this perfectly sums up the state in which a player can perform at their highest level. Not only perform at their highest level, but live at their highest level. So when we're talking about flow state here, we're not only talking about in performance or in the game, we're talking about in life as well. And this is really important for me, especially the part about being fully immersed, energized focus, full involvement, and especially enjoyment of the process. And when a player is completely absorbed in their life, in their craft, and focused on their goals and their objectives and their vision, and they know how to navigate, they know how to overcome the adversity, and they're handling the challenges and obstacles with ease, bang, you're in flow state. And that's ultimately what we want these players to experience to prepare them most effectively for playing in college and at the professional level. And so today I just wanted to give you a taste of what this methodology is all about. I wanted to really give you the behind the scenes look at our philosophy and how we help players achieve success and how we help players achieve results. And so I'll leave you with this. We have 3 key programs. We have Pro Mentality Training, which is exactly the methodology here, the progression model here. That's pro mentality training. Number 2 is peak performance training, which takes this methodology as a foundation and then adds on the physical component and the technical and tactical components of development. So that's peak performance. And then finally is professional preparation program. And so right now, we're no longer taking any more players into our professional preparation program. However, we are still taking players in our peak performance program and our pro mentality training program. And so we're only looking to take on, in 2022, we really set a goal to only take 15 players a month into our programs at a time. Only take 15 players at a time into our programs. And the reason why we're doing this is to really focus on the attention of each individual player, improve the quality of their progression, and really focusing on the right players. And that's key to understand too. So anyhow, I wanted to share that with you and what it is that we provide. If you're interested in learning more, you can schedule a meeting with me or someone on my team so that we can discuss how this works, if it's right for your player, and to see if it makes sense to work together here in 2022. So if your player's looking to play professionally, if they're looking to play in college, and if they're struggling with some of these mental strength obstacles and challenges that we discussed today, let me know and we could set up a time to talk and see if it's a good fit to work together personally for the remainder of this year and beyond. So I hope you found some value in our methodology. I hope you found some value in the philosophy behind what it is that we do, and I'm excited to continue this journey of sharing these, behind the scenes stuff that we're working on with you to provide you with value and direction and hopefully a successful career for your player. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk soon. Thank you guys.